Hey, welcome back to the Warehouse of Dreams. For those people watching the replay, these are my ugly shoes. But we're talking about equipment here. I usually get on here at least once a day with some health and fitness tips. Hey, Armbar Bear, how you doing today, buddy? So if you're watching this in the replay, if you have any questions, you can email me at Dan@Cooperstown CrossFit. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. I'm going to spin my wheels for a little bit here, let some people hop on. My hair's looking kind of weird. What's going on there? It's kind of strange. But I own a CrossFit gym here in Central New York, and I'm on here at least once a day with some health and fitness tips. And I've got some athletes. Most of my athletes are wearing the appropriate footwear, and I'm starting to get some more people on board wearing the correct type of shoes. Typically when you're doing some strength and conditioning, if you're not running, you don't want to be wearing running shoes. Running shoes are a task-specific piece of equipment. And so if you're squatting really heavy weight or just squatting body weight, you probably don't want to be in running shoes. 7th grade teacher, that's funny. That's funny, 2000 JBS. So how old is your teacher? Are they an old man like me? Probably, huh? So, talking about shoes, with CrossFit, I just picked up a pair of these. I'll show you. Yeah, I'm in my 40s. I'm 43. So your teacher's 30. That's funny. You got the chin strap. So anyways, these are my new shoes. I wear these specifically for CrossFit training. I can run in these, skip rope, move heavy weight, squat, deadlift, clean and jerk, snatch. And then I've also got some actual weightlifting shoes. So let's look at these for a second. These are a task-specific piece of equipment. So with the weightlifting shoes, where you're performing the snatch or the clean and jerk, you want to have a very stable platform. Does that show up pretty good? It's a little dark. So hopefully you guys can see this. I'll try to get out of the shadows here. There we go. Alright, so if we're moving some heavy weight, doing a snatch or a clean and jerk, we want a really stable surface underneath us. And you can see these shoes are really hard. They're not soft and squishy. They're very stable, very hard, very flat. The heel, it's a 3/4 inch heel. Which allows you to kind of keep your ankle out of the equation. If you have really tight ankles, you'll be able to squat really well with these. So I'm on here talking about equipment for training. So we want to treat our shoes just like equipment. How's it going, Kathleen? Running shoes. You know, if we're going to go running, you want a pair of running shoes, but they're not really good for much of anything else. And I'll show you an example here. These are a pair of running shoes that I do a little bit of running in my program, but I also do rope climbs. And so this here, it looks like a mouse got into my shoe, and it's actually from the rope. When I slide back down the rope, I kind of use my feet as an anchor, as a brake, so I don't end up tearing my hands as I'm coming back down the rope. And you can see how the rope is actually eaten into the sole of the shoe. Also, you'll notice here that the heel is really soft and squishy. And so if I'm standing under some really heavy weight, this isn't a very stable surface. And I see, you know, when athletes train with me and they're wearing running shoes, I can actually see a lot of wobble. If they've got a barbell on their back and they've got these running shoes, you can see all that really soft foam rubber. It's not a very stable surface. So these are great for running, but that's about it. So if you're doing any type of strength and conditioning, if it includes running, definitely have a pair of running shoes. Dr. Martens is a good brand. I was always comfortable standing in Dr. Martens. I wouldn't necessarily train in Dr. Martens, but I always thought they were very comfortable. But I'm talking about, I own a CrossFit gym in Central New York, so we're just talking about thinking of our shoes as equipment. So here we go. These are the new Nano 5s. I just picked these up. But if you're doing some training, you don't really want to lay out the change for the Nanos. I always recommend just starting out with some soccer shoes. That's how I got started. They're really cheap. I would usually pick up a pair, $30 pair of indoor soccer shoes, very stable surface, pretty low heel, so you can run in them, do a lot of gymnastics movements in them. You can move some barbells in them, and they're only $30. And usually a pair would last me 2 years. I just blew out another pair, and I had them for over 2 years. Doing a lot of training, a lot of coaching. I wore those shoes every day for pretty much 2 years straight. So they hold up really well. I'm kind of excited now to be in the Nanos because they've got some features that you don't see in indoor soccer shoes. But if you're looking for a simple training shoe, you don't want to invest a lot of money, just start with some indoor soccer shoes. They're really cheap. Make sure they're for the indoor soccer. You don't want to have cleats, but you want to have a nice minimal heel, nice flat surface. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Hey, you're welcome. I'm on here at least once a day with some health and fitness tips, and this is my first time ever talking about equipment. And so I'm talking about shoes as pieces of equipment. So I've showed you my Nanos. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking about training equipment. Usually I'm on here with some health and fitness tips, sleep strategies, nutrition strategies, training strategies. But today I just want to talk about equipment for a little bit. So let's turn this around again, look at these shoes. I've got a pair of, these are task-specific shoes. So these are designed for lifting weights, typically the snatch and the clean and jerk. So if you look at my coach, Donnie, this is my coach Donnie Schenkel. He is performing a clean with well over 400 pounds in this poster, and you can see he's wearing his weightlifting shoes. And so there's a heel, a 3/4 inch heel, and his heels are actually made out of wood. And so you want, if you're moving big weight in a snatch or a clean and jerk, you want to have a heel under you that basically takes your ankle flexibility out of the equation. If you've got tight ankles, the heel makes up for that. Plus, they're really hard. There's no give here. This is really hard material. I don't know what's underneath this, if it's wood or if it's just a really dense rubber polymer or what. You can hear it. They're really, really solid. But they're not for running. You don't want to run in these because when you're doing a jerk, yes, you will get up on the ball of your foot with your rear foot, but most of the time your feet are going to be flat on the floor. You're going to be squatting. You're not going to be running in these, okay? You're not going to be doing any jumping. It's mostly just for weightlifting. So these are a task-specific shoe. Similar to running, I don't want you guys using running shoes for anything other than running, okay? It's not safe. I've talked earlier about this heel. If you look, I see my athletes that haven't invested in shoes. The heel is really unstable, and so if you've got some weight on your back, if you're doing some squats and you're under a load, and this soft heel is moving around, that's going to affect you upstream. So your ankles, your knees, your hips, even up into your back. And also, if you're doing like some gymnastics movements, such as rope climbs, I use my feet as I'm coming down the rope to kind of brake, and you can see how the rope has been like a little mouse and eaten through the foam. So definitely you want to have some task-specific shoes. Barefoot at the gym lifting, you'll see that sometimes with deadlifts. People want to get really close to the floor. So OF Salt's saying, I see guys barefoot at the gym lifting. Deadlifts, you'll probably see them lifting barefoot. Trying to enhance their flexibility, and so by training barefoot, even though it's slightly dangerous or really dangerous at times, they may be actually getting some good results training barefoot. And I know people that they run barefoot, kind of rewilding themselves. So depending on what your goals are, maybe training barefoot is really good for you. But I like having a decent pair of shoes. So we looked at the weightlifting shoes, we looked at running shoes, and then I just picked up some CrossFit shoes. So you can see some similarities here. They look really similar to a running shoe, but they also have a heel like that weightlifting shoe. It's not as high, but it's really hard, it's really stable. It's more flexible than the weightlifting shoe. And it has some neat features here where for rope climbs it actually has this feature built into the arch. Very resilient, very strong material that will not be damaged by rope. Lots of neat features with this. Very flat surface, no real strange contours or anything. It's pretty basic. You want traction, you want to be stable and flat on the floor. So I've only had these for a couple days. I've tried them out with jump ropes, I've tried them out with rope climbs, I've tried them out with jerks. I was jerking some barbells out of the rack, some squats and stuff. They feel really great. I'm really excited. If you don't really want to throw down the change for a specific CrossFit shoe, I would start people just on an indoor soccer shoe. They're really cheap, 30 bucks. You'll get a pretty basic shoe that you can use for running. Yeah, I use weightlifting shoes. So here's mine here. I'll flip the camera around again. So these are a more modern shoe. They don't have a wooden heel. I'm kind of like a purist, so I'd like to have a weightlifting shoe with a wooden heel. You don't really see that too much anymore. But I showed earlier the poster of my coach Donnie. Here he is under well over 400 pounds, and I don't know if it shows up really well, but he's got some Adidas, I think they're Adidas shoes, with a wooden heel. And so there he is catching his clean, getting ready to stand up and go into the jerk. So the weightlifting shoe is a task-specific shoes. You're not going to run in these. You're not going to do box jumps in these. You're not going to do gymnastics in these. This is specifically for the sport of weightlifting. You can use them when you squat, when you overhead squat, front squat, back squat. Use them on your presses and stuff. I wouldn't necessarily use them on deadlifts. O.F. Saltz earlier was talking about people lifting weights barefoot. You may see that with somebody working on their deadlift, trying to get really close to the floor. So not having a shoe on for the deadlift, if you're really trying to push your deadlift up really high, the closer you can get your hips to the floor, the more weight you're going to be able to lift. You'll be able to overload your deadlift that way, just getting closer to the floor. And then you'll see athletes training their deadlift, and they'll stand up on top of something. They'll put some mats underneath their feet, and so the bar is actually closer to the top of their foot, and it'll be pulling from a deficit. So there's different ways depending on how you're training and what your goals are. You also see people in the rewilding movement. Well, they will train barefoot without shoes. I'm not really an expert on that, so I wouldn't recommend that. I know that there are ways to do it. There's progressive ways to do it, and I think there are manufacturers of shoes now. If you want to get back to more of a barefoot style of training, I think there's a manufacturer out there now where they have a series of shoes where they'll start you on pretty close to what you're used to, and then the next shoe will be a little more minimal, the next shoe is a little more minimal, and then they work you down to running in your bare feet. So nothing wrong with that. I think it's appropriate, especially if you're having lots of foot problems and lower limb problems. You may have really good results getting to barefoot running, barefoot training. You really have to, if you're training at a gym, you have to talk to the people there and see what their policy is on training barefoot. Some people just will want you wearing shoes. So Sisu Fitness, 5 fingers are pretty good barefoot. Yeah. My wife, she had fantastic results with the 5 fingers. I actually knew a lady that she had really bad hammer toes, and her final option was to go in for surgery. She decided to try out the 5 fingers shoes, and within 2 days her hammer toes were completely resolved, and she had completely healthy toes. So depending on what your goals are, depending on what your needs are, you want to really look at what you're doing with your feet in terms of shoes. So I just wanted to get on here today, talk about equipment. Not something I typically talk about, but I just picked up a pair of Nanos, and I'm really happy with them. They're the latest style, and they're very comfortable. I've tried out jump ropes, some gymnastics movements and things like that. Rock Troll loves barefoot running. Right on, brother. Barefoot running is legit. I've seen people get really good results with it. With my training, I'm kind of a big guy, so I'm running around 220 right now, just because my goals are moving really heavy shit. So I've got a lot of muscle mass on me, and I don't think I'd have good results barefoot running. I think I'd probably peel the soles off my feet. But I'm usually on here at least once a day with some health and fitness tips. I own a CrossFit gym here in central New York. So if you like what you're seeing, give me some hearts. If you want to hear more, follow me. I'll try to get on at least once a day and talk to you guys. Yeah, Rock Troll and we used to ride the school bus together. That's a fun run. I think it's about, crossing over at Jones Crossing. I think from there up to Hartwick and back was around 5 miles, if I remember correctly. So probably with you were a little further on, so probably you're doing 4.5, 5.5 miles running that loop. So that's pretty cool. So thanks for tuning in. I'll be on again tomorrow talking about some health and fitness, some nutrition tips maybe, or some training tips. Today we're just talking about equipment. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.